Good morning, guys. Hi again. Today we're gonna complete our story, the selection that we started in the previous video, which is the story of an hour. Remember, guys, that we said that the story is told from the third person point of view. We also focused on a skill, guys, which is irony. And we said irony can be divided into three sections. The first one, verbal irony. The second one, situational. The third one, which is dramatic. So again, verbal, situational, dramatic. What's meant by verbal irony? Verbal irony means that you say something, but you mean a different thing. You mean something different completely. For example, guys, if you ask your friend, how are you doing? He may say, I had a great day. I had a great day. Okay, so in fact, guys, okay, he has faced some problems, like for example, he was late for work. He was late for work. Okay, he lost his wallet. So, guys, he said that I had a great day, but indeed, he doesn't mean that he has had a good day. Of course, he meant something different. So the first one, verbal, means that you say something, but you mean another thing, a different thing. The second one, which is situational. Situational irony means that you expect something, but what happens is different. But what happens is different. Again, so situational, guys, you expect something, but what happens is different from what you expect. You have expected from your expectations. Remember, guys, that we studied an example of the situational irony the last video when we talked about the woman and how vibrant and healthy she was. How vibrant and healthy she was after after the news of her husband's death. So, guys, we all expected that that woman may suffer some heart problems, because we all know that from the beginning. We all know that she has some heart problems. So maybe after hearing the news of her husband's death, she will face more problems. Maybe she will die. She will die. So, guys, but what happens, guys? Okay, it's contrary to what we have expected. Now, the author described her as being vibrant, and healthy. That's situational irony. The last type of irony today, which is dramatic irony. Dramatic irony means that the characters know nothing about a situation, while the readers do. So we as readers, we know something that the characters in the story do not know. So that's called dramatic irony. We as readers, guys, we as viewers of a movie, for example, we know something that some of the characters or some characters do not know. That's called dramatic irony. Okay. Now let's move to the story. We stopped at line 49. We stop at line 49, guys, and remember that we said in lines 48 and 49 we have an example of irony here, which is situational irony. The author depicted the main character or the woman as a healthy, vibrant woman, which is really ironic because we all felt worried about her health after hearing the news of her husband's death. And yet, no, the author is depicting her as a vibrant person, as a healthy person. Guys, throughout the whole story, you have many examples of irony, situational irony, dramatic irony, and we will discuss them in detail. So now we will start from line 50, from line 49. She did not stop to ask if it were or were not a monstrous joy that held her. A clear and exalted perception enabled her to dismiss the suggestions as trivial. So now, guys, she didn't ask herself if that joy which she was feeling that time, okay, if she said that if it was moral or not. She didn't ask herself. She didn't blame herself for that. But her perception, her understanding of the whole situation dismissed the idea or the suggestion, considering it trivial or unimportant. The next lines, line 53, and please guys, you have to read lines 53 and 50 till 58, and you have to find out an example of irony here from 53 to 58. Now you have to pause the video for just 2 minutes. Okay, read these lines, they are easy. You won't find any trouble reading them, understanding them, and please try to find out an example of irony. Now read, please. Okay, guys, we said that the story is full of irony, situational irony, especially situational irony. Here, guys, in these lines, we all expected that she would be sad for her husband's death, considering her thoughts that she would weep again when she saw him dead. Yet she looked forward to the years or the coming years, and she opened her arms to welcome them. Again, guys, these lines, guys, contain an example of irony, contain an example of irony, which is situational irony. Guys, normally after her husband's death, we all expected that she would be sad, she would be gloomy for his death. She would lament him. But unexpectedly, guys, of course, she expected that she would weep. But guys, during all these the circumstances, she was looking forward to the future years, and she opened her arms to welcome them. So that's really weird, because she was supposed to feel gloomy, to weep, to suffer some problems, some health problems, but on the contrary, guys, of course, she was looking forward to the coming years, and she opened her arms in order to welcome them. So that these lines, guys, contain an example of irony, as we said. Now, guys, let's read the next line from 59 to 64. From 59 to 64. Okay, guys, you have to find also an example of irony. By the way, almost our irony is repeated in every paragraph that we read here, guys. Okay, I read it with you, guys. Please try to focus. There would be no one to live for during these coming years. She would live for herself. There would be no powerful will bending hers in that blind persistence with which men and women believe they have a right to impose a private will upon a fellow creature. Guys, it's just a continuation to the irony that we are encountering in each paragraph. Guys, she's saying that she would live for herself. Nobody would live for her. She would live for herself. Nobody would control her or impose his will upon her. Again, she would live for herself. Nobody or no one would control her or impose his will upon her. Of course, it seems like a crime to think of the situation she was in, with or without good intention. She thought that it was something like a crime to think of the situation this way. Of course, whether she had good intentions or not, it seemed like a crime. And she should be lamenting her dead husband. She should be sad, gloomy now, broken. But on the contrary, guys, as we said, she was healthy, or she seemed healthy and vibrant. Okay, she was looking forward to the future, what will happen. Okay, she opened her arms to welcome the future years. And here, finally, in these lines we are reading here, guys. Okay, she was looking forward to her freedom. Okay, she was happy that nobody will impose his will upon her. Of course, it seemed like a crime, to think of the situation this way, whether she had good intention or bad intentions. Now, let's move. I hope that everything is okay, guys. I think that the selection is quite easy. And now let's move to the next page. Now listen to these lines, guys, please.
And yet she had loved him. Sometimes. Often she had not. What did it matter? What could love, the unsolved mystery, count for in face of this possession of self-assertion, which she suddenly recognized as the strongest impulse of her being? Free, body and soul free, she kept whispering. Josephine was kneeling before the closed door with her lips to the keyhole, imploring for admission. Louise, open the door. I beg, open the door. You will make yourself ill. What are you doing, Louise? For heaven's sake, open the door. Go away. I'm not making myself ill. No, she was drinking in a very elixir of life through that open window. Her fancy was running riot along those days ahead of her. Spring days and summer days and all sorts of days that would be her own. She breathed a quick prayer that life might be long. It was only yesterday she had thought with a shudder that life might be long. She arose at length and opened the door to her sister's importunities. There was a feverish triumph in her eyes, and she carried herself unwittingly like a goddess of victory. She clasped her sister's waist, and together they descended the stairs. Richard stood waiting for them at the bottom. Someone was opening the front door with a latchkey. It was Brentley Mallard who entered, a little travel-stained, composedly carrying his gripsack and umbrella. He had been far from the scene of the accident and did not even know there had been one. He stood amazed at Josephine's piercing cry, at Richard's quick motion to screen him from the view of his wife. But Richard's was too late. When the doctors came, they said she had died of heart disease, of joy that kills.
Now, guys, let's read the lines again together. Okay, just start now from lines 70 to 79. From 70 to 79. I want to find an example of irony in these lines. Please pause the video for 3 minutes and read them again and try to find an example of irony. Well, remember, guys, that her sister was really worried about her, and she knocked the door many times, and she was really worried that her sister would make herself sick, and she begged her to open the door. Okay. Of course, we readers know that she wasn't thinking completely about her late husband, about his death, but she was really thinking about her coming days. And how joyful she would be. So again, that situation is ironic. Again, her sister thought that she would make herself sick, and begged her to open the door. But we readers know that she was thinking about her coming days, her freedom, her joy. Okay, she thought that the coming days will be hers and she would be a joyful person. She would become free with no one to control her, with no one to impose his, his will upon her. Let's complete, please. Now, go away. I'm not making myself ill. I'm not making myself ill. If you pay attention, guys, to this line, I'm not making myself ill. That's an example of irony, verbal irony here, guys. So the woman or the main character is mocking now. She is sarcastic. I'm not going to make myself ill. She was drinking in very elixir through that open window. Her fancy was running right along these days ahead of her, spring days and summer days. She was looking forward to the future and all sorts of days that would be her own. She breathed a quick prayer that life might be long. She wanted to live long. It was only yesterday she had thought with a shudder that life might be long. She arose at length and opened the door to her sister's importunities. There was a feverish triumph in her eyes, and she carried herself unwittingly like a goddess of victory. She clasped her sister's waist, and together they descended the stairs. Richard stood waiting for them at the bottom. His friend was waiting for them, and how happy, how she imagined herself as a victorious person. The last paragraph, guys, lines 85 to 90. Please write it and read them again, please. Okay, and find an example of dramatic irony. Take just 3 minutes, guys. You don't need any more time. 3 minutes, guys, and find out an example of irony. And you have to find out which type of irony is it. Is it verbal? Is it situational? Is it dramatic irony? Pause the video now and think of the answer. Again, an example of irony. Well, of course we do. We have an example of irony here when Mr. Mallard, her husband, he doesn't know what we readers do. Okay, what do we know, guys? What do we know? We all know that his wife was feeling happy. Okay, and in some situations or in some moments, okay, she was mourning him. So he doesn't know all that, but we readers do. So you can say that Mr. Mallard doesn't know what readers do, what readers know. He doesn't know that his wife is mourning him, rather than, or you can say celebrating her freedom, Again, guys, in these lines 85 to 90, we have a dramatic irony because Mr. Mallard doesn't know what readers do. Okay, he doesn't know that his wife is mourning him, or rather say, celebrating her freedom. Guys, at the end, guys, his wife died, but the author was very sarcastic here. The last line, guys, when the doctors came, they said she had died of a heart disease, of joy that kills. Of course, this phrase, guys, of joy that kills is an irony. Because, of course, she wasn't. By the way, guys, the last lines were told from her husband's perspective. Not her own. It was told, or these lines were told from her husband's perspectives. Maybe the author wanted us to imagine or to speculate about the reasons for her death now. Is it because she was very happy and her heart couldn't bear that happiness, or because she saw her husband and she was shocked? So the author preferred to introduce the last lines from her husband's point of view, not from her own point of view. Why? Because he wanted to leave us in suspense, in excitement. He wanted us to think, to find out why she died. Was she really dead because she was so happy because she thought that she would get her freedom? She would get her freedom and her coming days would be better for her, or because maybe she saw him and got choked. Okay, so I myself tend to say that, okay, it was just a shock for her, guys, a shock for her to see her husband again. Of course, Mr. Richards tried to, to hide her, or to stop her from seeing her husband, whom she thought has died, but in fact he was still alive. So Mr. Richards maybe trying to screen her from seeing her husband. Why? Because he knew that she had heart disease, heart problems, and her heart would fail. She would have a serious problem if she saw him suddenly. Maybe he wanted to pave the way first before telling her, or before seeing her husband. So his trial didn't work. His trial didn't work, and at the end, guys, she died. The author was sarcastic when she said, "Of joy that kills." Hope you enjoyed the selection, guys. And remember, guys, that we will send you some sheets about this selection. Please do it. And good luck, guys. Hope we can meet soon, inshallah. Good luck. Have a nice time.